Hi, welcome back to the Cute Jeweler channel. This video is an excerpt from my live streams. If you're not familiar with my channel, I'm actually a Twitch streamer. I stream 3D modeling in Rhino on Twitch 3 days a week. This video is part one of a 3-part series. I've taken an excerpt from my live stream and cut it up so that you can kind of follow along my process. For this one, I'm making a hexagon halo with micro-prong setting. Now, if you're a jeweler, you'll know that micro-prong setting is a little bit difficult to lay out in CAD, but I'll take you through the steps that I did for this hexagon ring. If you're interested in watching my live stream, check out the link below for my updated schedule. In part one, we focus on laying out the stones on the actual halo shape. We're going to talk about the 3 key factors that you need to pay attention to when laying out your stones in a halo. So make sure you stay tuned to the end where I'll talk about those 3 points. All right, so let's jump right into the video. So I'm using the square tool here because the square tool actually can make all sorts of shapes. I'm gonna have the point going down because if you remember from our picture, her spider head is going to be out the flat side because this will help with proportion and kind of keep everything like an even weight on everything. So I'm going to model it with the point side down because then I can model my spider right side up. Actually, no. I'm going to do it the other way because her legs are going to be coming over here. So never mind. I can always rotate it if I need to. This is going to be the outside of it. So I'm thinking there. Yeah. That's a good size. That's a good size. I should have kept everything flat on my C-plane for now. It's okay. So this will still give me some space to have my shank coming out of the side. You'll still be able to see it a little bit from the top, but just a little bit. Okay. What size stones do we think we want to use? What length are my little walls here? Let's find out. $11.54. Let's see if we can do this by math. Usually I just do this by eye, but I'm going to see if I can do this by math because everybody loves math, right? We're going to pretend, so we're going to do 11.54. Let's see if I wanted to have 8 stones there. 1.4s? Okay, we'll do 1.4s. Math. Everybody loves math, right? Did I lose all my viewers when I started doing math? This down, as I will forget. We're going to stick with 1.4 millimeter stones. Let's see how those look. So I actually have round stones programmed into my software now. I'd forgotten I'd done this. I have them set up as blocks. So what I have here is I have a 1 millimeter gem programmed into my actual software. I programmed this myself. And because I have it set as 1 millimeter, if I scale this to 1.4, it'll actually put a 1.4 millimeter stone in here. So I can just put 1.4 in here and it'll put in a 1.4 millimeter stone. And this is not about where it's going to be. And I also like to keep all my gemstones on these blue layers. For my layout, this is going to be micro-prong setting. So I need to make myself a few reference lines, which we love reference lines on this channel. Let's see. So when you're making a micro-prong, you want to make sure you have enough metal on the outside of the piece so that after polishing, because as a CAD modeler, you need to remember that you are the first person touching this. You are not the last person touching this. And everybody who touches this is going to essentially remove material, right? So when you have the process of making jewelry, you've got the person who lays it out in either the wax or the CAD. Then it's going to get, like if you're doing it in CAD, it's going to get 3D printed. Someone might clean up the 3D print a little bit, most likely not, but you might lose a little bit of material there. Then when it goes into the casting process, it gets what we call a casting skin on it. And so that's going to have to be polished off. So that's going to remove some metal. And then it's going to get set, and then it's going to get polished again, and that's going to remove some metal. So you could lose. I've had people lose up to 1/2 millimeter of metal on their pieces if their jeweler is not very good and they over polish it. And so whenever I'm laying out my gemstones, I want to account for these things. So I usually put 0.2 millimeters on the outside of my pieces. That way I'll know that eventually that'll get polished off. But I don't want my gemstones hanging over the side. Some people are okay with their gemstones hanging over the side, but that's just going to you're just asking for your gemstone to get chipped and broken. And we don't want that. So I always give myself a little extra room on there, and I might end up taking that and putting it on the outside. We'll see how I feel after everything gets laid out. This is also not going to be perfectly flat. I'm going to give it a little bit of an angle, but since it's straight, I'm just going to lay it out like this for now. I might end up going and doing a flow along a curve instead. All right, so I want to make a little reference curve on here. When you lay out your gemstones, you don't want to lay out your gemstones right next to each other, because there's always a little bit of variation in gemstone size. Even if you order 1.4s, you could have anywhere between 1.35 and 1.45. So you want to give yourself a little bit of extra space. I usually do 0.15 or 0.2 depending. I'm going to do 1.5 right now. So now that I've got my reference, I think, here we go. Oh, that should be enough metal there. I'm just gonna explode this. So now that I've got my one gemstone there, I am going to do an array along a curve. So I just have my one curve. That's why I exploded it, because I believe each of these lengths should be the same. I want them to be the same, but let's double check just in case. Okay, they are the same. Good. So there's no point in laying out the whole thing. You might as well just lay out one side and then copy it around, because otherwise you're just going to take forever to lay out each side, even though they're all going to be exactly the same. You got to work smarter, not harder. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to, I just want to see what my layout is going to be. All right, fine. Array along a curve. All right. Here's my objects. Here's my curve. I'm going to do spacing. So since I want 0.15 in between everybody, these are 1.4. So my spacing is going to be 1.55. Okay. So that doesn't quite fit how I want it to. And I had a feeling that this was going to happen. What happens, oops, if I take, these should be grouped. So these are my parent. The way I've set everything up, I have history enabled, so everything should update, and it still doesn't quite fit, which is fine. It just means I have to change. I think this one I'm gonna have to change the size of the stones to get these to fit. And since I'm making this ring, I don't have any specific rules that I need to fit by for something. No one's given me a specific number of gemstones to work with. So we can go a little smaller with these. So let's bring these down. Let's try 1.3s. Actually, let's do 1.25s. Oh, whoops. I need to do scale 3D. I just want to scale this because it should keep my reference line the same distance. Nope, I broke history. That's fine. We will just re-offset my little reference line. Cool. I'm just going to realign this over here. We're going to redo array along a curve. Now that this is 1.25s, I'm going to do 1.4. Yeah. Ooh, that almost fit better. So we'll do 1.3s. Okay, let me go back into my transform tools. We'll scale 3D. 1.3. It's always that kind of that dance when you're laying out a halo. Is you got to pick the right size stone. I can also start messing with the spacing a little bit because these are going to be micro-prong. If I space them out just a little extra, then I'll just have a little bit of thicker prong, which is totally fine with me. So these are 1.3s, so this is gonna be 1.45. Oh, hey, look at that. That's almost perfect. Yeah, if I just adjust my spacing just a little bit, then this will be perfect. Cool beans. Let's do 0.5. Nope, that's too much. Let's do... I wish there was a preview option on for this particular one. There's no preview. 1.46. Oh, close. All right, we're almost there, guys. We'll do 1.47. Oh no, it went the wrong way. It's because of where I clicked. There we go. Perfection. 1.47 was our beautiful spacing. So when you're going to be laying out a halo ring, you got 3 key factors that you need to take in place. You've got the size of the stone, the spacing of the stone, and the shape of the overall halo. One of those things needs to be flexible, right? So if this was for a client and that client was like, I need to have 1.5 millimeter stones on here, then I can play with the spacing and I can play with the size of this halo. If I have a client that says, I want my 1.5 millimeter stones and I want this halo to be as close to the center stone as possible, then I can only play with the spacing. And so if you're gonna have a piece of custom jewelry designed, it's best to give the designer a little bit more of creative freedom, because if someone said, I need my spacing to be this, I need my stones to be this, I need the shape of the halo to be this, that might not be possible. That just physics get in the way. And so something you gotta think about as a jeweler and as a CAD person is you gotta think about physics. Physics, unfortunately, affect everything, including jewelry design. So to summarize, the 3 things that you need to pay attention to when laying out stones for a halo is the size of the stone, the spacing between the stones, and also the size and the shape of the actual halo. If you don't have any wiggle room in there, then you've got a very distinct size and shape that you can stick with. You need to have some factor that has some kind of a wiggle room if you're gonna lay out a reasonable halo. Now you'll notice in the video that I tried to do a little math to get my stones to lay out. When I did a 0.4 millimeter stone, that actually wasn't the right size. It was always supposed to be 1.3s, which you'll see that when I did the flow along the curve, my spacing ended up being, well, about 1.44. I think it was a 1.47. And the reason is because when I did the math the first time, I just totally forgot to account for the spacing. So had I done that, then the math would have worked out perfectly for knowing how many stones and what size they needed to be. It's a live stream, so sometimes you don't notice the mistakes you made until after you go back and watch the video. It happens. If you found that interesting and you want to see us finish up this, make sure to click right here for part 2. And if you're interested in learning more about CAD, 3D printing, or jewelry design, make sure to check out my social media. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in part 2.